Hello there, my name is Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. Today we're working on the wedding dress sampler quilt. This block is number 8 out of 10 and it is called Split 9 Patch. I will definitely leave all the measurements in the description, and I'm making 2 blocks, but for one block you're just going to need to make 6 HSTs. To do that you're going to need 3 5-inch pieces of the wedding dress fabric and 3 5-inch squares of the second color. And here I'm just using a plain solid gray fabric. I've got 2 4.5-inch squares of the wedding dress fabric for 2 of the corners and 1 4.5-inch square of the gray for the center of the block. The first thing I'm going to do is make the half square triangles, otherwise known as HSTs. So my 5-inch squares on the wedding dress fabric on the wrong side, I'm drawing a line diagonally across the square from corner to corner. To stitch these, I'm placing a gray fabric right sides together with the wedding dress fabric. I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from the line on both sides of the line. And you see I'm chain piecing these. When I get to the end of the blocks that I need, I'm going to flip this whole chain around and stitch back down the other side. Now I just have to cut these apart on the line. Then I'm going to press these little blocks open, being careful to use a setting that will work with this wedding dress fabric. These half square triangles need to be trimmed to 4.5 inches. That's pretty easy to do if you have a diagonal line on your ruler like I do. I'm simply placing this diagonal line on that seam line. I'm going to trim away the top and the right hand side. Then I'm going to flip this little unit around the opposite way and trim it down to 4.5 inches, keeping that diagonal line on the seam line. Since I'm making 2 blocks, I'm going to have a total of 12 half square triangles. Well, this is a block I've never made before, so I kept my book handy so I could make sure and lay it out correctly. I've got a white 4.5-inch square in the top left, and then there's going to be a white in the lower right with the dark center, and then these half square triangles go around those 3 blocks and between them. Now it is simply a matter of sewing each row together and then sewing the rows together to complete the block. And I like to chain piece these, so you'll see that I've grabbed the top left and the middle top pieces, and I'm going to stitch those together. Then for block 2, I'm going to grab those exact same 2 pieces. Then I'm going to go to the second row, do the same thing. The third row, do the same thing. When I place these back, I'm going to put them exactly where I got them. Make sure my layout is still in the correct position. Once I've got all the pieces put back where they belong from that first chain, I just add that third piece to each row and then I'll be ready to stitch the rows together. Well, each of these rows has 3 units, so there are 2 seams that do need to meet up, so this is a nice neat block. I use the nesting technique, nest the seams, one seam going one way, one the other way. I place a clip to hold that in place until I get it to the sewing machine. It's easy for me to talk about being cautious when you're putting your rows together, but if you take a look at these 2 blocks, when I got ready to film this, I got a big surprise because I put one row on incorrectly. Luckily, it was not a big deal to separate the one row that I put on incorrectly and just flip it around and stitch it onto the correct side. And here we go, the finished block 8. My 2 blocks are done. Now, if you were making a whole quilt out of these blocks, that would make some really cute secondary patterns. Just flip the blocks around different ways and you'll get different looks. But for me, these are going to be part of a larger wedding dress quilt, and I'm only making 2 of them. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you back again real soon.